This square has helped to remove two presidents from power, and it happened without a single bullet being fired. And perhaps if the reason why K-culture like BTS or Squid Game, loved by people all over the world, can even exist today. Welcome to Gwanghwamun Square. If you had just 1 week in Korea, where would you go in Seoul? What would you absolutely have to see? I work as a tour guide for foreign visitors here in Korea, and in this series, I'm going to walk you through the exact same Seoul tour that I take my guests on. But this isn't going to be your typical, oh, this place is pretty, that place is famous kind of video. I'm going to share the hidden stories and the history behind each spot. Trust me, once you know these stories, Seoul will look completely different to you. So a typical 1 week Korean package tour looks something like this. 2 to 3 days in Seoul, 2 days in Gyeongju, and 2 to 3 days in Busan. On the first evening in Seoul, we have a welcome meeting where I go over the full itinerary, and then we all have a welcome dinner together. If you still got energy after that, some guests like to take a stroll along the Cheongwadae stream or to ride a cable car up to Namsan Tower. The real Seoul tour kicks off the next morning. So, shall we get started? Our tour begins right here, Gwanghwamun Square. It's 9:30 in the morning, and this wide open square is still pretty quiet. Two towering statues greet you as you walk in. Now, whenever I start a tour, I always ask my guests this question. Who are the two greatest heroes in your country's history? If they are British, I'll hear Winston Churchill, Isaac Newton, Shakespeare, Admiral Nelson. It really depends on who you ask. Every visitor has their own hero. But when you ask Koreans the same question, almost everyone gives you the exact same two names. And their statues are standing right here in Gwanghwamun Square. King Sejong the Great and Admiral Yi Sun-sin. That's how legendary these two figures are in Korean history. Let me tell you about Admiral Yi Sun-sin first. His story is honestly more dramatic than any movie. In the late 1500s, Japan invaded Korea with their hundreds of thousands of soldiers. While Joseon's military had weakened during 200 years of peace, the Japanese forces were highly trained veterans from a century of civil war, armed with a deadly new musket. Facing this overwhelming army, the Joseon dynasty was on the brink of collapse. And it was Admiral Yi who, through a series of stunning naval victories, crushed the Japanese fleet and saved the nation. But here's where the story takes turn. Despite all those victories, he was falsely accused, stripped of his rank, thrown in prison, and even tortured. Eventually, he was reinstated, but the situation was dire. While he was gone, the Korean Navy had been devastated. Only 12 ships remained. That's it, 12. Everyone said, fighting is impossible, there's no way. But Admiral Yi sent a message to the king. Your Majesty, I still have 12 warships under my command. And with just those ships, he faced the Japanese fleet of 130 vessels and won a miraculous victory. So is this where the hero finally gets his happy ending? Sadly no. An even greater tragedy awaited. In the very last battle of the war, Admiral Yi was struck by the Japanese bullet and killed in action. And even in his dying moment, his only concern was the outcome of the battle. His final words, "Do not announce my death until the battle is over." What if Admiral Yi hadn't been there? What if he'd never been released from prison? You might not be traveling through Korea right now. You might be traveling through Japan instead. And I, as a Japanese tour guide, might be telling you something like this. Joseon was a dynasty that existed until it was conquered by Japan in the 16th century. Here at Gwanghwamun is where the dynasty's key government offices once stood. Do you see that shrine over there? That site was originally the grounds of Gyeongbokgung, Joseon's main royal palace, but it was completely burned down during the war after Joseon became part of Japan. A shrine was built there to honor the Japanese heroes who died in battle. Admiral Yi Sun-sin, a hero who gave his life to save his nation in its darkest hour. It's only because of his sacrifice, a man who can only be described as a superhuman, that you are traveling through Korea today, not Japan. And perhaps if the reason why K-culture like BTS or Squid Game, loved by people all over the world, can even exist today. He died centuries ago, but Admiral Yi Sun-sin lives on as an immortal hero in the heart of every Korean. If Admiral Yi Sun-sin was the hero who saved Korea on the battlefield, then King Sejong the Great is the hero of culture and intellect. He is the king who ushered in the most brilliant era in the 600-year history of the Joseon dynasty, and above all, he is the one who created Hangul, Korea's own alphabet. I'll tell you the full story of King Sejong and Hangul in the next video when you step inside the Gyeongbokgung Palace, so stay tuned for that. So in Korean history, these two figures represent two pillars of a great nation, Mun and Mu. You can think of them as the pen and the sword. King Sejong represents Mun, the power of culture, science, and scholarship. He's the one who gave us our own alphabet, Hangul. On the other hand, Admiral Yi represents Mu, the martial bravery and the strength to protect the land. He is the legendary hero who saved Korea during a major invasion. For Koreans, a perfect society is the one where wisdom and strength work together. It may be a coincidence or perhaps destiny, but our two greatest heroes each represent the very best of Mun and Mu. As you can see, their statues stand proudly together in this square, acting as the spiritual backbone that holds up the heart and soul of our nation today. Hongdae, Gangnam, where do you think the center of Seoul is? Surprisingly, the answer might be right here, Gwanghwamun Square. Today, it may look like just a beautiful open space, but during the Joseon Dynasty, this square played a very different role. It was known as Yukjo Street, the street of the 6 ministries. All 6 branches of the royal government were lined up right here along the road leading to the palace. It was the political nerve center of the entire kingdom. What's remarkable is that even after Korea became a modern republic, the government didn't move somewhere new. Look around. The government complex, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are still all right here in the same area as hundreds of years ago. Even the Blue House, which served as the presidential residence for decades, sits just behind the Gyeongbokgung Palace. And here's the fun fact. It's not called the Blue House because of its walls like the White House in DC. It gets its name from the blue glazed roof tiles. In Korean, we call it Cheongwadae, which literally means the house of blue roof tiles. 600 years have passed, yet this area has never stopped being the political heart of the nation. It's a tradition that has flowed straight from the Joseon Dynasty into modern Korea. In this way, Gwanghwamun has always been the center of Seoul since the Joseon Dynasty. Back then, the city was centered around the Gyeongbokgung Palace, and everything within a radius of about 4 to 5 kilometers made up all of Seoul. Since then, Seoul has grown enormously as the capital of South Korea, expanding its area more than tenfold and becoming a mega city with around 10 million people. Along the way, many new hubs like Hongdae and Gangnam have emerged as a bustling downtown district. But in my personal view, even with all this growth, Gwanghwamun remains the true heart of Seoul and the center of South Korea itself. Gwanghwamun Square is also a landmark of Korean democracy. In 1987, massive pro-democracy protests against the military dictatorship took place right here. After decades of military rule, the people's fight finally ended the dictatorship and Korea became a true democracy where citizens could elect their own president. But democracy is never a done deal. A new crisis can shake it at any time. In 2016, it was revealed that the sitting president had been secretly sharing classified government documents with a close personal friend, someone with no official position, who used that access to extort millions from major corporations. Millions of citizens gathered in this very square holding candles, demanding the impeachment of the president. And it worked. The president was removed from the office and a new president was elected. But Korea's democracy was tested yet again. In December 2024, the sitting president shocked the nation by declaring emergency martial law late at night, even sending the soldiers into the National Assembly. Thousands of citizens rushed to the building and blocked the military. Thanks to them, lawmakers were able to enter the building, push past the troops, and voted to lift the martial law, all within just 6 hours. The president was then impeached by the National Assembly, and in April 2025, the Constitutional Court unanimously removed him from office. A new president was elected, and Korea moved forward once again. And through it all, once again, massive crowds flooded into Gwanghwamun Square. But this time, it was different from 2016. Back then, the crowd was mostly united, millions calling for the president to step down. But in 2024 and 2025, those who supported the impeachment and those who opposed it both gathered here on the same square, sometimes just blocks apart. Tensions were real, emotions ran high on both sides. And yet, no violence, no bloodshed. In both 2016 and 2024, the entire process from impeachment to removal to a new election was carried out through the rule of law and democratic procedures. Not a single bullet was fired. These crises didn't weaken Korean democracy. They made it stronger and more mature. And Gwanghwamun Square stood at the center of it all, witnessing every moment just as it has for the past 600 years. But it's not just about politics. In 2002, when Korea hosted the FIFA World Cup with Japan, this square was flooded with a sea of people, all dressed in red, the color of the Korean team's uniform, cheering on their national team, and against all odds, Korea made it all the way to the semifinals. It was nothing short of the miracle, and this is where the nation came together to witness it. So Gwanghwamun Square isn't just a political space. It's where Korea gathers for its biggest moments, whatever they may be. Right now, it's a peaceful open space, but at any moment, tens of thousands could gather here again to protect, to celebrate, to make history. Once you know that story, you look at this square a little differently, don't you? So in just one square, we've met Korea's two greatest heroes, witnessed the 600 years of political history, and seen how Koreans' democracy was tested, shaken, and came out stronger every single time. And we haven't even stepped inside the palace yet. In the next video, we are walking through Gyeongbokgung, where a 600-year-old ideology still shapes Korea's life today, where king created an alphabet that changed the world, and where the king and queen lived under rules you won't believe. Then we'll head to Bukchon Hanok village, one of the most beautiful spots in Seoul, hiding an incredible story of the man who risked everything to save it. If you don't want to miss that, hit subscribe and give it a like. I'll see you in the next video. Fighting!